Hello, everybody, dear friends. I am Frida Kruid, and I am the Interim Executive Director of Amnesty Canada English-speaking section. My preferred pronouns are she, her, ella. I'm a guest and temporarily located on the traditional unceded and unsurrendered territory of the Anishinaabe Algonquin people, who have been guardians of this land from time immemorial, and I'm very grateful for the welcome that I've had on this land. I took up this role on the 31st of May 2021 and was seconded to the section for 14 months by the International Secretariat of Amnesty International in the Americas, where I am the Director of Movement Engagement based in Mexico City. I have the honor and pleasure to support our Secretary General, Ketini Viabandi, in her leadership, reporting to her and leading the operational management side of the section, as well as particularly why I was brought in was to manage internal change processes, including our equity journey and a much needed organizational efficiency and culture transformation. So we are fully aligned with the movement's new strategic directions and core values that you've all seen, and that was adopted last September by the whole movement, which include a very strong emphasis on becoming an anti-racist, equitable and anti-oppressive movement and section. After the exit of the executive director earlier last year and some sensitive internal challenges with, for example, staff speaking up about racism and oppression that they have experienced in our section, the second part of the year when I came in, I focused very deeply on creating some stability in that context and creating the conditions for deep transformation work, prioritizing the section's existing gaps in anti-racism and anti-oppression, creating spaces to break down resistance and silos and resistance to change, and to start applying more equitable processes and practices in the workplace. And that was really characterized by a culture of often informal processes, outdated policies, protocols, and practices that benefited some, particularly white staff with longer tenure, and left others, often racialized and newer staff, with a sense of marginalization. Building a culture of trust, equity, and performance has been a priority for 2021, and that will continue going forward. During the summer and fall, a collective and participatory process guided development of a national strategic vision derived from our global strategic framework, and obviously that I already mentioned was adopted at our Global Assembly of Amnesty International in September 2021. As you can see in our strategic vision draft that the board presented in a resolution, there's a clear ambition to shift gears towards becoming a more relevant and bold human rights organization that really actively engages with the Canadian context, but also the regional and the global contexts, and strengthening our role as a network leader, but also as a partner and a partner of choice for communities at risk, and especially racialized people, Indigenous people, Inuit people, Métis, and our allies and partners in key human rights areas. The full team, staff team, was involved in developing from that strategic vision an operational framework and theories of change that outline how we plan to make our strategic vision a reality. All programs and teams contributed, so this time around we did it with everybody, not just with a few people, which was very exciting and very interesting and helped breaking down silos and really created some positive spaces of engagement for the teams. Our underpinning organizational capabilities will focus on reorienting power, connecting with other movements, adapting and modernizing our organization, but also humanizing it. To ensure that the latter includes a very clear anti-racist, anti-oppressive focus, I would like to go a little deeper on what we've been doing during 2021 to advance that equity journey that I spoke about. As mentioned earlier, we commissioned 2 reviews to understand the issues the section is facing and inform the creation of an organizational equity roadmap and work plan to guide our work moving forward. During the second part of last year, whilst these assessments were going on, we started already with a range of tailored anti-racism trainings for management, for staff, and also for the board that aimed at creating a common language and understanding of what racism and oppression really means for everyone. The roots of racial discrimination in history and society, and the harmful underlying prejudice and assumptions that make these inequities systemic and all-pervading. We are part of a bigger ecosystem where systemic racism exists and Amnesty is part of society and therefore not immune to these things at all. It gave everyone better understanding and tools to identify racism when it happens and oppression and understand how to tackle it and not to continue to be harmed or be silent. It has also created deep awareness of the longer term, deep and systemic work that is still needed. We started incorporating anti-racism and anti-oppressive behaviors and competencies into our performance evaluations, for example, and implemented regular management team building and strategic management retreats to increase our cohesion and have these deep and difficult sometimes conversations. We improved our human resources support and policies by attracting an equity-informed human resource consultant as an interim manager in July 2021, who, together with the senior leadership team, ensured revision and creation of new equitable processes, including hiring with more inclusive and equitable job postings and job descriptions, better onboarding and offboarding processes, performance management, adapted with anti-racism and anti-oppression objectives and evaluation criteria, better leave-taking policies, making those more equitable, more transparent, and we're deep into a policy review and development process that includes improving our complaint mechanisms and compliance mechanisms. We then proceeded with the creation of an equity, people and culture program and recruited a director for that, Hawa and Mira, who will lead on our equity journey going forward together with the senior managers and the team. We introduced more equitable and systemic leave and well-being practices, including the introduction of racism leave for all staff self-identifying as racialized. We also acknowledge that part of a serious equity journey requires systematic collection and analysis of data and demographics. So we initiated that and commissioned a membership equity assessment with Quake Lab, collected data on staff demographics, which showed the history of diversity within the organization going back 30 years, and commissioned an audience donor research project with the support of an equity in philanthropy firm with the intent to understand and diversify Amnesty Canada's donor base. By the end of 2021, we built the foundations for the development of an equity roadmap that will guide our organizational change and equity work for the years to come. This includes an equity roadmap and an organizational structure review that will culminate in an organizational change strategy, ready for implementation, hopefully in the second or third quarter of 2022, and it will align our organizational structure and ways of working with our national vision and operational framework. I just want to mention a few operational areas that happened during my tenure in 2021, the most impactful one being the evacuation effort of 3 families from Afghan colleagues, from our section, the International Secretariat and the US section. They needed to leave Afghanistan urgently when the US withdrew in August last year. They were at risk in part because of their human rights work and because family members are working for Amnesty International, so we felt great responsibility for them. Thanks to several of our section's board members and staff, we ensured they were able to relocate to Ireland safely, where they were very caringly received by our colleagues from Ireland, Amnesty Ireland. As you imagine, we had some challenges around ongoing COVID pandemic and had several tentative dates to reopen offices for staff and volunteers with all the health and safety precautions in place, of course, like masking and social distancing. But the context kept throwing us back to almost fully home office. Recently, we reopened for staff and also for the volunteers, and we have protocols and processes in place that allow us to have a hybrid working environment. For volunteers, we are ensuring that everyone has equal access to our offices and the same protocols and processes apply for everyone. And our site coordinators, Nancy and Louise, are your first point of call for access. Lastly, we had a nasty cyber attack over the summer last year that was quite sophisticated and involved the finance department of the International Secretariat, as well as our finance team, and even some other sections. It was a deliberate attempt to swindle Amnesty out of a lot of money. And because of solid internal controls, this didn't happen. No money was lost, but it did trigger a large internal IT security assessment and financial midterm audit to ensure that this can be prevented in the future and that no money were lost. Wrapping up, as you can see, 2021 was a pivotal year for Amnesty Canada English speaking, a year where we raised more money than ever, over $70 million, where we did transcendental human rights work together with our partners, as you can hear in Kitty's message and Isan's message, and where we had leadership and culture changes internally. And where we were once again reminded of the trust and expectations of our partners, our activists, donors, and beneficiaries, to be agents of change for human rights. That's what we're here for, right? Giving us the motivation and drive to be the best organization inside and out, to excel and shine and a light on the future. I'm looking forward to seeing you at the AGM and answer any questions that you may have. Take care. Thank you.